I think now we can start with our technical session, which is on the issues, technology, and education. We all understand that World Environment Day is a really day when we have to see that how we can serve the Mother Earth to nurture us further and our future generations. In that way, we can have. Sir, somebody's mic is on. So we can start. We have a galaxy of stars where many of us, many scientists and different parts of the academics and science are today here to discuss the issues and role of technology and the role of education. So I invite first engineer Sherin Tashi, who is deputy director in ISRO and is founder direct chairman Ladakh Science Foundation. He is talking on space technologies for ecological restoration. Dr. Tashi, please.
Subrat and all the panelists on the virtual platform. So I'm today I'll be speaking on the space technology for the ecosystem restoration. So I'll be very try to conclude my presentation within the allotted time of maybe 5 to 7 minutes. As you all know, the World Environment Day is celebrated on the 5th of June, and this year the theme is reimagine, recreate, restore ecosystem restoration. And the United Nations has declared the decade on ecosystem restoration from 2021, that is today, till the 2030. So in the coming 10 years, we have to restore the ecosystem which has been damaged too much. So then in this area, how the space technology can be used for the ecosystem restoration, I'll be very briefly touching upon the space technology part of it. So as we all know that the ecosystem has been damaged too much, like global warming and climate change, and glaciers are receding. Almost 60% of glaciers melted so far. Then even the thermofrost melting, glacier lake outbursts, deforestation, soil erosion, and the wetlands has been lost too much. And these are the some of the list I just taken from the internet, like air pollution, water pollution, ocean pollution, and endangering the marine species, then urbanization, then overpopulation, industrialization. So these all are the factors which has led to the damage to our mother earth. And I think for this we human beings are largely responsible for the damage to the ecosystem. And in Ladakh, even in Ladakh, we can see the glacier has receded very fast, and in unprecedented change in the climate system, the cloud burst and the glacier lake outburst and flash flood. So these are the various environmental effect which our mother earth is facing, and particularly in Ladakh being a very ecological, very sensitive area, and the cold desert area, and its ecology is very fragile, and we all know it. I don't need to go into detail about it. So then, to restore this damaged ecosystem, how we can work, like how the space technology can help in restoring the ecosystem. So and if we just I will very briefly touch upon this space technology aspect of it. These are the various type of satellite systems operated in India by the Indian Space Research Organization, and similar satellites are being designed, developed by the many spacefaring nations, like the Earth observation satellites, which are mainly used for the Earth environment studies, and the topic of the day, mainly the Earth observation satellites, then meteorological satellite, communication, navigation. I believe these are the four categories of the space system which can be used and are being used for the restoration of the ecosystem. And there are many other missions by the many spacefaring nation which also aids in the protection of the our environment. And then like major space activities like interplanetary missions, space exploration, human space missions, and then the earth observation, communication, navigation, meteorology, search and rescue, and the disaster management. In this the green, the mark in green, like earth observation, communication, navigation, meteorology, search and rescue, and disaster management, this category of the satellite system space assets can be used for the restoration of the ecosystem. And then mainly the earth observation satellites, what we call it, the remote sensing satellites, and like which includes in India like cartosat, cartography satellite, resource set, ocean set, RI set, radar imaging. Like this, these are the class of satellite which are being very effectively used for the observation of earth resources and effective management of the resources, like in the field of agriculture, crops, soil, forest and environment, the geology, geomorphology, cartography, mapping, GIS, land use, water resources, ocean and coastal science, rural urban development, climate change, and glacier melting, renewable energy. So these are the some of the applications which are being done effectively by the space agency ISRO in India, and many of the other our centers like regional remote sensing center. And in the states, like most of the states, they have their own space application center, like a climate change center. So there are many organizations, even the GB Pant Institute, they are playing major role in the application of this program. These are the some of the areas I felt like where the space system can be used effectively, like the water resource information system, groundwater prospects and identification, mapping the surface of water bodies, monitoring of the glacier lakes and water body, permafrost. These are the, I think, major things in Ladakh. Like Ladakh has so many glacier lakes which are not known to the public. Even the scientific communities are not no, they don't have exact information how many glaciers lakes are there in Ladakh, and what is their status, whether like how much time it will take to burst. And similarly the permafrost is the frozen earth below the surface of the earth. Like on the outside you can see just like a mountain, but below there will be a frozen glaciers. So due to the global warming, maybe the change of the even the 0.5 degree or 1 degree can destabilize this permafrost. This is been happening in Ladakh, like example of the like glacier like outburst in Gya and Achinathang. So these kind of things we can monitor using the satellites. And agriculture revival, watershed programs, common area program. So in Ladakh there are so many irrigation projects are being launched. Like suppose for the example, you can see the Igufe Canal. For the last 40 years it is being still it is not cultivated properly. So such programs can be monitored at the top level by using the satellites, their progress, how much cultivation is happened, revival. Then forest working pilot plan. Ladakh, of course, doesn't have much forest. The biodiversity conservation, and then natural flora and fauna. Then urbanization and rural development. So this urbanization is a major problem. So how we can effectively implement the back to village program, like smart cities. All these programs it's like helps in the revival of our ecosystem. So such things, like even Ladakh lies in the earthquake zone 5, zone 4. So such kind of tectonic plate movements and the earthquake identification and prone zone identification. Then similarly the disaster management support system, like flash flood, cloud burst, earthquake, landslide. These are the disasters happening in Ladakh. So here I think effectively space system can be utilized. Similarly in the Ladakh, not only for the ecosystem restoration, even for the developmental purpose, these are the some of the areas I have listed out where the space systems can play a major role in the sustainable development in Ladakh. So to devise a program and effectively utilizing such space assets which are available in India through the Indian Space Research Organization, and even Ladakh being the now newly created union territory, I strongly feel we should have a separate separate science and technology center or space application center, which does all this space related activities for the sustainable development of Ladakh, so that we can restore our destroyed ecosystem, and also we can in the next one decade, as the United Nations has said that the UN decade of ecosystem from 2021 to 2030, so we can very effectively plan programs and execute on the ground using the ground infrastructure as well as the space infrastructure. So thank you, Subrat sir. So due to the limited time, I could not go into the details. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tashi, for your very enlightening lecture. We all understand that the time is a constraint, but certainly, sir, you have given the message that how the modernization of technology can contribute very significantly to that, to the ecological restoration. Many dimensions, many techniques, many tools. Thank you very much, sir. Now I invite Miss Kunjas Dolma. She is the one expert in the field of which is dominated by men, and she is the only the representative in Ladakh, very profoundly coming as an advisor, energy advisor to the Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council. She has won many prestigious awards internationally. Now I invite Ms. Kunjas Dolma to talk about the sustainable utilization of energy sources, especially in context to the Ladakh. Ms. Dolma, please.
Thank you, Subrat sir. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the students who did such awesome work in all the competitions. And thanks to DB Pant, LSF, and LEDEC for organizing this event. I'll be speaking a little bit on how we can have energy resources utilized in order to have environmental balance or ecological balance. We all talk about sustainability a lot these days, but what does sustainability actually mean for all of us? It has different meanings for different people, I assume. But for me, it means that we should be able to use these natural resources that we are utilizing in this lifetime by the next generations and generations and generations to come for another more than 1,000 years in the same way that we do as of now. That I will call a sustainable development. But is that possible? Why sustainable development of energy resource is important in space like Ladakh? Now, you might be thinking that we have so much land, we have so much of barren land. Why not utilize all of that, you know? But Ladakh has a really, really important role to play in the environment balance, especially in the Asian country. And since it's a part of the third pole, so it has a major contribution in the environmental and the ecological balance. Then we come, okay, we still see lots of barren land. We have all this tongue, you know, available with us. So why not utilize that with the production of energy resources? Because we have lots of potential, and by potential, I really mean like gigawatts of potential of energy resources, be it wind, be it hydro, be it solar, be it geothermal. But then the onus is on each one of us, be it children, like small children, or be it the developers, or be it the discoms, or be it the local utilizing partners itself, that we should be able to develop these in a sustainable manner. And these barren lands are just not barren lands. They really have a very huge role, because the value of these land for the balance of ecosystem is really immense. If we cover all these barren lands with, for example, solar panels, it could create a low pressure area in the Asian context, and then that could disturb the whole monsoon cycle of India, actually. Just like how creating this Three Gorges Dam in China has affected, has turned actually the what you call this magnetic whole of Earth, you know. So in order to keep a balance with providing energy access to each and everyone and saving the ecosystem of the environment, it is really important that all the stakeholders are taken into account. And by stakeholders, I don't mean only the human species over here. We have to look for all the flora and fauna that exist in the area, you know, because we humans are just one of the many thousands of species on this planet. And this is the reason why, before doing any kind of project, I really suggest that we do environmental social impact assessments so that we know what are the impacts of any kind of project in that area, be it a energy related project or be it any kind of developmental project, for example, getting a road or building a building itself, actually. We have been experiencing and we have seen from the past more than a year right now that this pandemic has done to us, you know. And when we say that we should get back to normal, so what normal is really for us? We need to we need to rethink that what we were doing, was it
I think right now we can move to the next presentation in the meantime, and we will call back when she is connected again. May I invite now Dr. Sonam Wangmo, assistant professor from EGM College Leh. She is talking about the entirely on a very different aspect. How our water system and the water bodies are uh, degrading. And she is really very good trained. She is trained from the Jawaharlal Nehru University. She did PhD from there. So from a very good academic background to the serving to the students of Ladakh. Now I invite Dr. Sonam Wangmo on the topic degradation of water bodies in Ladakh.
I'll be talking on the degradation of water bodies in Ladakh. So, when Ladakh was not a union territory, a study was done on how many water bodies were there in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So, totally they found out 12,500 water bodies, out of which Ladakh has a fair share of 665 small and large bodies. So now we are on the verge of questioning to save, to restore these water bodies. Why these water bodies are important to us? First of all, being a Ladakh being a deserted land, it's a source of water. And secondly, after this Bollywood program, shooting of Three Idiots and Jab Tak Hai Jaan, they have provided lots of attraction to especially the Indian tourists. They want to come and see the Three Idiot Lake. So it provides the aesthetic beauty. And most importantly, they perform many fundamental ecological functions. They act as a source and a sink for carbon dioxide, which is a globally significantly role they play. And now why we need to worry about it? Because these wetlands, they act as an indicator of climate change, right? When we try to overexploit the nature, and they start to indicate that there is a danger of degradation. So why do we need to worry about wetlands is that if we degrade these wetlands, and they will convert large amount of carbon dioxide which they have captured till now. Okay. So what other functions wetlands and other water bodies perform? They regulate the water regime, global water regime. They recharge the groundwater. They also store the water, and they do the retention role of retention of nutrients, sediments, and pollutants. So why we need to save them? Because other than this, they are home to very various flora and fauna, various terrestrial vegetation, aquatic vegetation, terrestrial mammals, which are already endangered, vulnerable, and critical in the IUCN list, and most importantly, they are breeding ground for the host and the migratory birds, especially the bar-headed goose and the black-necked crane, which is nowadays posing a it is known as a globally threatened bird, black-necked crane. So these bird they travel thousands and thousands of more miles and come here to breed. And when we are destroying the breeding ground, right, so we are harming the ecology. And next thing, the tourism activity which are being harming this particular wetlands are especially when you see in Pangong and Chokar, the camps, right, the septic tanks of camps, they are without the proper, they do not build the proper septic tanks so that it can be easy for them to get absorbed underground, so it will contaminate the wetlands, right? And next, now a tourist has a new adventure to do this jeep safari, and many jeep safaris have they have been reported that they have been harming the kiang, especially the kiang mammal and their breeding grounds. So they are, we are blindly harming our ecosystem. So next is I want to talk about the I did several personal inquiries about the Gufuk wetland, which is dried this year, totally dried up. It was due to a personal land conflict that the people, they have diverted the source of water to the wetland. So this is very, this is a very greed deed of a human, which doesn't show that they care about the nature. They don't care about the aquatic life here there. They don't care about the aquatic faunal life there. So I think we should really need to think and think about all these wetlands. What are they doing? What are their ecological functions? Whether directly they are benefiting us or indirectly benefiting us, we are benefiting from them, of course. So we need to take care of all these things. We need to take care of sustainable tourism, right? And we need to take care of this nutrition and groundwater recharge, all the roles they are playing. And we do not need to be that selfish that we, Gupuk is an example of this human selfish deed to nature, right? So we do need to take care of all these things, and we do need to restore these wetlands. Thank you so much. I'll keep it very short. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, highlighting the water. How much?
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you very much, highlighting the importance of water for us, especially the waterscape of the Ladakh, which are the source and supporting to the various type of life, especially animal life, birds life for the Ladakh, and how it is connected with the far miles ecosystems. So restoring these ecosystems is very important. Well, thank you very much, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. Deepankar Saha. He is the head regional center of ICR Center, Kajri, and they master in the how to deal with the deserts. So he has a vast experience of dealing with the deserts, in the hot deserts of Rajasthan to the cold deserts of Ladakh. Now I invite Dr. Deepankar Saha, please. Dr. Deepankar Saha? Yes, sir. We can see you. Just unmute your mic.
And let me. So now question is, it's a great event. Obviously, every part of the world, World Environment Day is being celebrated. It has been long since the time of Stockholm Conference of 1972, and especially I would like to abridge upon the three philosophical attributes of the sustainability here. Because just few days back, a week back, almost more than a week back, we have celebrated the International Day of Biological Diversity. That is on 22nd May. And 5th of June, we are here to celebrate the World Environment Day. And after 15 days or so, fortnight, we are going to celebrate the World Day to combat desertification and drought. Now, question of sustainability. Now, question of this year's themes of ecological restorations, that is tagged with the hashtag with the WED 2021. Now, it is very pertinent. Just if we all recall the day 22nd May, the Biological Diversity Day, the 5th June, the Environment Day, and the 17th June, the three very, very important international days of just has been designed and defined by the United Nations, and we all are celebrating. Now, question is that every year the themes are being changed. That is fine. That is fine. Now, I have given the responsibility to talk about something about the ecological restoration. Now, question is, ecological restorations cannot be defined, understood, implemented without looking or abridging the two other triads of the sustainability. These are the triads of sustainability. That is biodiversity, your environment, over canvas is environment, and the process that is certification. But most of the time, as because I do have a very limited time to talk about, ecological restoration is not about the ecological restorations and the ecological rehabilitation. Because mostly we are being experienced in different niches and ecosystem. And here in the context of the mountain ecosystem, when we are thinking upon, that is very specific, very specific. Ecological restorations need to be understood in restoration perspective and niche based. And there are thousands of techniques and tools, niche based, which need to be standardized. Hypothetically, theoretically, there are a lot of model approaches in different habitat, different ecosystem. But my submission is that we should not confuse the restoration with the rehabilitation. Mostly in Indian subcontinent, the ecological restoration as a science, as a technology, as a kind of intervention, as a kind of a process, theoretically, hypothetically, technically, and technologically. So we need to have a kind of a certification program and make the people, maybe the amateur, maybe the professionals, to be educated, trained in ecological restorations and its different type of aspects and its issues related to ecological restorations. And as because mountain ecosystem is so rich in biodiversity, this environment is very specific, having lot of multiplicity of its natural resources. So ecological restorations, just you narrow down, narrow down ourselves to a grazing ecosystem within the ambit of the mountain ecosystem. So there are different type of combination of species, its richness, of different type of grassland community we are getting in the mountain ecosystem. As such, if you take into consideration the Ladakh Himalaya also, Trans Himalaya also. Now, thing is that we cannot have a generic or blanket recommendations and tools and techniques on ecological restoration But very specific to say, we need to have a ground to work on restoration, because we have to restore all those species as such. We are not supposed to introduce anything. The moment we are introducing the philosophy, the very basic definition is not being served. The purpose is totally being disarrayed. So ecological restoration practitioners need to be developed, need to have a kind of a human resources trained personals, maybe at the preliminary level, in the intermediate level or the graduations level. I am just making a symbolic definition. It's a kind of allegory from my side. So this kind of program has been adopted, and as we are aware that United Nations declared this decade as decade of ecosystem restorations. And myself being a member of Society of Ecological Restoration of United States of America, and being one of the trained personals, not at the highest level, but for my own knowledge acquire process, I have developed that kind of. But my submission is, we need to have a niche specific within that mountain ecosystem ambit, niche specific ecosystem restoration toolkit that cannot be derived just overnight or over a week period of time, just having a 2 or 3 visits in a particular spot. There should be a framework, there should be some indicators, and as per the scientific process developed and defined and gradually being developed in different parts of the world or pertains to ecosystem restorations, that need to be applicable here with a little bit of situational modification, habitat-wide modifications, and we can have a toolkit which can address the ecosystem restoration perspective, very niche specific. Then only the ecosystem restoration narratives will be understood in its true sense. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Subratji, and all the luminaries, those who were present in the inaugural sessions, the policy makers, the R&D people in R&D governance they are related with. So all those decision makers, my tribute from my organization and from my side, and more so thanks to all the participants, those who are sharing their wonderful experience. So thank you, Dr. Subratji, thanks to GB Pant, thanks to the whole group, those who are organizing this program. And it is pertinent not only in that sense that as because the United Nations has declared this one as an ecosystem restoration decade, that's why we have to talk about, it's not like that. We have to develop the human resources, trained human resources, and gradually try to see how ecosystem restorations applications are being scientifically, technically, in a correct way, in a niche specific way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saha, for enlightening us through the philosophical approach and the things which were required behind the ecological restoration, and to develop the thinking on the ecological restoration, and especially talking about the toolkit that is a very much required these days, and this word is quite in fashion these days. So I think we will use this word very cautiously, and especially in the terms of a science. Thank you very much. Now I will take you to the entirely different dimension. We have seen the technology, we have seen the philosophical approach, we have seen the sustainable utilization practices, we have seen that how the degrading things are degrading and how they are important for us. But what is the role of education? How to sensitize or make aware our citizens and the population and young generation for to help and to contribute in ecological restoration? That is the main challenge. And to discuss this and sharing their experiences, Mr. Konchok Namdol, Management Head, SECMOL, is with us, and he will talk about the role of education in ecological restoration. Now I invite Mr. Konchok Namdol to share his and institutional experiences on education and the ecological restoration. Please, Mr. Konchok Namdol, please.
Julie, and good morning, everyone. As the topic that given to me was role of education in ecological restoration, I'll be sharing you with the examples that what we have been doing in SEGMOL itself and what was my observation in last 3 or 4 years working with these kids from rural area of Ladakh, what kind of role that education can play to restore the ecology. So I would like to start with a very great quotation from Robert Swan. He rightly said the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. So yes, if we go with this belief, then we end up creating more of problem than restoration. And of course, the education has a very important role to play when we are talking about ecological restoration and saving the planet Earth. So on this occasion, I'm very happy to share about you how SEGMOL has been trying its best to restore the ecology for the past 30 years. So the main principle of giving our education in SEGMOL is very different from other school where we focus on practical and contextual based learning. So it becomes memorable for the students when we teach them practically about environment and ecology instead of teaching them same through textbooks only. Now I would like to take you to a few examples that what we have been doing in campus to sensitize these kids to be more aware about the ecology and environmental problem. One such example is that the campus itself is very environmental friendly campus in whole Ladakh, I guess, even in India, one of the most environmental friendly campus. The SEGMOL, everything that we run in the SEGMOL campus, it's based on the solar energy. Even our campus building is based on the solar energy. The students live in a campus where they learn everything by doing something practically, not just textbooks, because our education is very contextual, right? So if we talk about the contextual, it not just necessarily need to be a different context from the Ladakh. It has to be very relevant to Ladakh itself, and for the plain area, it has to be very relevant for the plain area in terms of contextual. So like we have a huge potential to harness this sun energy. So that's why we have solar building. Even in lots of area in Ladakh, different villages, they use different types of fossil fuels and they burn lots of wood and cow dungs to warm up their building in the winter in minus 25 degrees Celsius. They have to heat up their building to keep themselves warm. But in our campus, in minus 25 degrees Celsius, we remain plus 20 degrees Celsius inside our room without using any drop of fossil fuel, without using any electric heaters to warm up our building. That is one such best example. So we should inculcate this in the younger generation. We should inculcate this in the younger generation so they get inspired by living in such campus. In near future, they will play the key ambassador as they play a role in the society. So that's why we have been practicing solar building as one such example. Another example is like a compost toilet. Our forefather, our grandfather has given a very, very beautiful and gift. So the gift is the compost toilet. The Ladakh has been using compost manure since our forefather. But the problem is that due to the tourism industry, the Ladakhi people has shifted to the flush toilet system. But every one of us are very aware that the Ladakh is being on a northern part of the India, it has lots of water scarcity problem. It depends on the glaciers water. But due to global warming and climate change, these water glaciers are receding very fast. And then we are unconsciously using it in a flush toilet. So it ultimately consumes a lot of water and it pollute the water bodies itself, which is not really contextual to Ladakh, So we have been using this compost toilet in campus for last 30 years, and it has a great potential to save the water, and it has a great potential to produce organic manure so that we can practice organic farming on the field. So this is another example. And then another example, that is my observation, that what I have observed is that in schools we teach our kids, in school normally we teach our kids to throw your garbage in dustbin, which I really appreciate and I really like it because my teacher has taught this disciplines to me, and I have been practicing it. But something that really questioned inside me was, where will these garbages will go after you have put in this garbage into the trash bin? So that's the biggest question. That's what we have been teaching our kids in the campus. You have to think about the source of the garbages. You have to think about this, the journey of the garbages. It's good you throw your garbage into the dustbin and then it ended up in a in a valley or in a junkyard, so where it can become a potential ecological threat. So that's why we have to teach our kids the source of the garbage should be stopped. So that's what we have been practicing. These kids in our campus have been sensitizing from every aspect. It not just necessarily need to be from the textbook itself. They have been learning this from video visuals, and they have been learning this ecological perspective from different experts from different field in ecology. That's what we have been doing in our campus. And another important thing that I believe is, if we want to have a future generation which will they have a very happy and sustainable lifestyle, it is responsible of each one of us to teach our younger one, to make them sound and to make them aware of the environmental degradation and so on. And even we teach our kids something like there are lots of good things happening in the world also. It's not just about the environmental degradation and global warming. There are lots of people who have been doing creatively different technologies to combat this global warming and climate change, and we teach this also to the kids. It not just necessarily need to be you all the time you have been focusing on the problem. You have to focus on the good things also. There are lots of climate activists in the world like Greta Thunberg, one such prominent example. So this thing we have been teaching our kids, and once they finish their course 1 year in campus, they are really sound, they are really aware, and they have sound mind to save this environment, not just for themselves, for the future generation. They will think like future 10 generation. They have the right to live in a very environmental friendly in ecosystem. So that's what we have been doing in campus, and that's all I would like to share. And I don't have much time, I will stop here. Actually, this is a very brief that what we have been doing, I'm telling you. And thank you so much for all the organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity and in giving me a time to share my experience and what we have been doing in the alternative school itself. Thank you so much once again, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, this was the requirement that we know that tech tools, techniques are there, but traditions, how the traditions and our old practices, which were customized during the evolution of a human life at one place, how they have been evolved, how they were contributing. It was a wonderful, sir. So I think education, learning from the experience is a very important aspect of the restoration. Not only ecological, even the social restoration. We all understand that, and the SACMOL is giving the actual field experiences, practical experiences to the students and creating models how to sustain the ecology of Ladakh. That is wonderful, sir. Thank you very much for sharing these things. Before we sum up, may I invite few questions from students, because they were asking in the morning that we want to ask questions on the topics which are covered in this session. So I invite, if anyone is interested to ask the question from our expert panels, you are most welcome, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, please introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. So my name is Chikmet Dolma, and I'm an 11th grader currently studying in Narayana PU College in Bangalore. So actually, I while listening to all these eminent scientists, I gathered few doubts, and I would like to question. So first of all, I wanted to know that today, on the occasion of World Environment Day, we're talking so much about the restoration of ecosystem. So I am a normal school-going girl, like goes to school every day, studies subjects, and also as a normal school girl, how can I contribute to the restoration of the ecosystem in my own ways, sir? Can you suggest me some ways? Thank you so much, sir.
So, from the eminent panel, who is going to answer this young girl? Dr. Deepankar Saha, may I think you can take this question.
A wonderful thing. I hope this question comes from the heart of that little sister. But it is my suggestion, if you are really, in real sense, if you are trying to do something on your own, so it is a wonderful thinking from your mindset, from your side. But you just share your email ID with Dr. Subratji. I will extend some link to you. And if you are, I think you are conversant with English, American English especially. So gradually you try to make yourself first learned, first educated about ecological restoration in real sense, little bit of theoretical and little bit of practical approaches. So all those educational capsules being governed and organized from the Society of Ecological Restoration, United States of America. They are the leading bodies all over the world and they are looking into all the continents. So online, virtually in a virtual mode, you can learn all these things very slowly. And I recommend you continue with your study and parallelly you just learn all these things. I think gradually down the line, within 2-3 years, you will be a very, very effective ambassador, very, very effective ambassador of ecological restoration on your own way, within your region, within your space, within your habitat of your own choice. I think, am I clear to you, sister?
Yes, sir. Very clear, sir. Thank you so
हाँ,
much.
सो आपको पहले एडुकेट करिए, थोड़ा थोड़ा सा पढ़िए और इसमें आपको पहले सर्टिफिकेशन प्रोग्राम करिए, आप सर्टिफिकेट ओनर हो जाइए, देन यू विल बी ए ऑथोराइज्ड ecosystem restoration practitioner. Like a medical practitioner, you will be the ecological restoration practitioner globally recognized, and you will learn, your confidence will build up, and gradually you will be a kind of asset for all of us, for this region, for everyone. And then you can plan your own action, that where you would like virtual learning from Society of Ecological Restoration. Dr. Subratji, I think I am very specifically clear to my sister.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you very
sir,
much,
I'm
sir.
very
Thank you
clear.
for your suggestions, and I hope she will graduate from the way you have said. But my submission to Jigmet to you is also that there are few actions which everyone can do in our daily life, which slightly impact or contribute to the ecological restoration, just like switch off the lights. You don't need much energy to live.
Yes, sir.
And you just take care of your plants in your surroundings. Don't make garbage in your surroundings. So whatever you are doing, basically ecological restoration is that taking the things to its prime situation. So what we have destroyed, or what we will say, I will say that another word is alter. But we have altered the system, like making a building is alteration to the system. So for the new kind of buildings, you require more energy, many more supportive things. So all these things are. I'm not saying you go to the jungle stays, but certainly take care of the things which can contribute towards the ecological restoration in a broad sense, not exactly the pinpointing that we have created a new wetlands, or even if a pond is nearby to you, if you are just taking care of that, taking care of the animals which are dependent on that pond, or on the road, if you have a trees which are the shelter for many birds and many other species, or everything is linked in the ecology. So many small things are there which you can do, especially go for the Environmental Protection Agency website of US. There is a section for school children. what they can do
So
in their
can
daily
you
life
give us more
for the
information about that?
ecological restoration. I think that is more than enough for you.
Sir, I also have a question, if I may ask.
A very quick last question to audience. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon and July to everyone. I am Nurzin and I'm a master's student based in Chandigarh. So my question is like recently news में आया था कि there's this ozone hole replenishing itself. So like with we being peak at global warming and climate change, and the ground reality is like everybody is in chaos of restoring the ecosystem and the earth atmosphere. So I just want to get more detailed info, if anybody of you know ki, is it really a hoax or like is it really happening, since the theme is ecosystem restoration. So why is it happening and how, if you may elaborate, please?
So you want to know why ozone hole is healing or why ozone hole is depleting?
Sir,
Ozone,
news में recently आया था in April
Yes, sir.
that it is replenishing itself. So
replenishing itself. Yes.
उतना कुछ समझ नहीं आया sir, like since the theme is like ecosystem restoration and even the UNDP has the slogan itself जो सारा कुछ उन्होंने एक slogan दिया था, तो उसके according like how you may elaborate it. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
May I answer, Nurzin, sir?
Sure, please.
Nurzin, it's not a hoax. It's actually a reality. Because when this it was discussed, it was even in the news key. It will be completely all right by 2050. There'll be no ozone layer hole kind of thing. Because we have in the Montreal Protocol, you might have heard it. We have made a deal not to use the ozone depleting substances, right? So with that protocol, government policies have come into actions, and we have used less and less of ozone depleting substances. That's why it is really healing. It's not a hoax.
Basically, Norjing, you understood that this is a collective effort of the global
Yes,
community.
exactly.
So whatever the action, what we are talking about, what our little girl from Bangalore asked, or from the highest level of the authorities in the countries, different countries, they have come to the treaty, and we are significantly reducing our ecological footprints, so that
Sir,
it is
especially the
scientifically-
aerosols and the chemicals used in refrigerator, fridges, and air conditioning things, these have been lessened, and we have moved to the alternate chemicals, alternate substances. We have moved to the alternate substances, so it's really healing. It's not a hoax, I want to add.
Yes, certainly it is a scientific evidence that it is healing. So it is a good sign to us that our efforts as a Homo sapiens, जो हम लोगों के जो population है Homo sapiens की, जिसको हम बड़े गर्व से आदमी कहते हैं, वो लोग ऐसा काम कर रहे हैं सब मिलके कि हमारी कुछ चीजें रिपेयर होने लगी हैं. जैसे अभी हमने लॉकडाउन में देखा कि there are the many places in Uttarakhand or the plains of UP. The sky is so clear because of the pollution is not there. Then Himalayas, the white mountains are visible from the plains. So that kind of a thing, the healing things are there. There are many species, especially the contribution of Birds Club of Ladakh. If you realize that because of this pandemic year, I am taking this an opportunity for to have this many birds came and were spotted in the last 2 years. It is very interesting. So we can always contribute to how to with our action that for the ecological restoration. I think someone asking the same question from Padma Uzen, sir, is the lockdown due to this pandemic boon for healing our ecosystem? Certainly, that's what I was talking to Padma. And thank you. There are many other aspects. There certainly we are losing human lives, and we have a severe impact on the health of the man due to this pandemic. Certainly these are there, but as far as the many good things are also coming to this. Thank you very much for everyone. Now I will conclude. I will sum up this session. We had a very broad spectrum of the speakers from the philosophical side to the where we had talked recently the toolkit, how to make niche specific techniques and tools regarding to that. Then where the technology comes into the by the Dr. Tashi and the new prospects of barren land, especially the Miss Kunjas Dolma. She talked about the impact of the new techniques and technologies on the ecosystem, and especially she emphasized that how to make impact assessment and take the right choice of the technologies. And the interesting part was that the traditional practices, experiences from the ground, from the traditions to take to further ecological restoration in the way a local society lives and takes care of their landscape, especially the Ladakh, where you require a sound environmental knowledge and how to elaborate and showcase the good practices. And especially the indicators of life and water is one of the most important. That was the highlight of the session, that how the water and the waterscapes are the important to the life of people and the many other animals, plants. Do you know the fact that high altitude wetlands, especially the Ladakh, where many speciation processes occur, नई स्पीशीज इवॉल्व होती है ऐसी जगह पर जो हाई एल्टीट्यूड वेटलैंड्स, दे आर फेमस ग्लोबली. आई एम नॉट श्योर दैट हाउ मेनी वेर एक्सप्लोर्ड on this aspect in the Ladakh, but globally high altitude wetlands are the places where speciation occurs. एक नई species बनती है, एक नई species जन्म लेती है. So we can understand that waterscapes of Ladakh, how they are important. And very recently we have one more Ramsar site. All of us understand that what is the importance of Ramsar site. So thank you very much to all the participants and the dignitaries, those who have enlightened us from their knowledge and the experiences. I must thank to all of you, especially Engineer Shering Tashi, Dr. Deepankar Shah, who is already occupied with the 2 virtual webinars. That is also a big problem these days. Ms. Kunjas Dolma, despite of her very busy schedule, she was able to join us. And Dr. Sonam Wango, she is occupied with many academic exercises these days, but she was able to come and join us and elaborate us many good things. Then Konchak Namdol sir from SECMOL was really occupied today. I know how much busy he is, but he was able to talk and share their experiences and elaborating this SECMOL. We also thank the Stanjin Namdol from Ladakh Biodiversity Council for sharing these experiences. And now from my side, this is over. Thank you very much. I hand over to the Dr. Suresh. Please continue with that.